Y'all, Wizard101 just had a maintenance last night. Some big changes just went live. So today, I wanted to make a video and everything you need to know about the most recent update. This has stuff that you should know about if you're a PvEer or PvPer. I've actually linked the update notes in the description. This is the full list of everything they patched. A lot of this stuff is bug fixes, but some of the biggest changes that went live today are stuff that the community's been asking about for literally months. So starting right off, one of the big glitches that got introduced with the spring update was the Scion spellment glitch. Now, the Scions are really relevant. One, there's just very powerful spells, but also, very notably, this update, they actually made the PvP only version of Scion, the bottom path, allowed to be used in PvE, which means, let's say that you do not do PvP, which is still the majority of the game. Getting Scion spellments means that you have not one, but two ridiculously powerful 11 pip spells. However, until now, every time anybody upgraded these, there was a small chance that the entire spellment would reset. People were literally getting to tier 4 or tier 5 and either upgrading or resetting, and then they would see a tier 2 Scion and they wouldn't be able to access all the spellments they just lost. So that was a very big glitch. It looks like it got updated this patch. We should be free to upgrade any spellments we want for any spell, including Scion. That is a big deal if you're like a balance, an ice, or fire for PvP, because those are Scions that I think are used all the time. But literally, if you PvE, you've been scared to upgrade, now's the time to do it. Now, Wizard101 also put out some hotfixes relating to spells that were extremely intrusive in PvP as well. And up to now, we didn't know what they were gonna do, but it looks like we finally have an answer. So the first thing that I think is really important to talk about is that Storm Elf, officially the item card version of the spell, is now PvP banned. This comes maybe, I want to say, a year and a half plus after the TC version of this spell got banned. It took them a while to ban this spell. But for some context, right, the Stormy Nullity Dragon, which is the pet that you can get from the raid that released nearly 4 years ago now, that pet gave 3 different Storm Elves. It was very easy, especially now that, like, you know, we're level 170s. We have 207 damage as Storm Wizard. It was very easy to threaten a Storm Elf, force your opponent to shield to not die to the Storm Elf, and just Storm Elf 1, 2, or even 3 times to get thousands of damage through shield. It was kind of breaking the internal logic of the game, because Storm is not a school that's supposed to be good against shields. It's actually supposed to be especially weak against shield. And yet this spell was giving them thousands of damage through shields. It was setting up some very crazy easy win conditions. I don't think there's a single soul that was saying that this was not broken. So the fact that it's PvP banned is a big deal. Now, a lot of people were wondering, yo, this is a pet that I raided for, right? As I said earlier, this is a raid pet. People didn't want their work to be devalued. It looks like they kept that consideration like in mind, and they added another item card to replace, I guess, the Storm Elf that is now PvP banned. Now, if you're not a PvPer, this is, I want to say, the most item cards you could possibly get on a pet. 6 item cards, 3 Storm Elves, and 3 Beetle. Now, I'll say this though, there is a Storm Beetle, or I guess Rain Beetle pet, that if you get it all the way to Mega, it actually gives 4 Storm Beetles. So if you're trying to do PvP, I would still argue that this specific pet is still the best. Keep in mind, right, the entire role of the Storm Nullity Dragon and the Storm Elf was that, let's say someone shields against you, you wanted an answer for cheap pips. Storm Beetle is that. The only difference between Storm Beetle and Storm Elf, one, Storm Beetle's not going to do 1,000 damage for this few pips when someone shields, and also Storm Beetle can't keep breaking shields round after round for the next 3 rounds, right? So obviously comes with limitations, but those are limitations that make sense on a school that's designed to be weak against shield. I think the key to using this spell, especially if Storm shield spamming becomes a thing to deal with how good Storm damage really is, I think the way to use this will be to use it with Catch of the Day and Want It and Berry and Shrike. This will not be a full substitute to Storm Elf, but when you consider the fact that Storm has a variety of utility spells that can also break shields at the same time, and obviously Shrike still exists, I think it's just gonna, people are gonna have to be more creative, and it should be more balanced in terms of like how Storm actually plays. That's what I hope. We'll see. Maybe Storm needs to have to duel into fire, or another school that's good against shields to stand a chance. We don't know. That being said, dual schooling into fire is super meta on the Storm already, so you could always see them using things like Elephant and Fire Elf just to replace it with other cards that they pack. Now, the other super intrusive card, this one, I'm not sure how I feel about it, what they've done to Scales of Destiny. Now, if y'all been playing the game at any point in PvP in the past year, I want to say literally maybe maybe over a year. Going against a balance meant one simple thing: you would get spammed by Scales of Destiny. Now, what have they done with the spell? They made the top hat, which was only giving all the value of the school pips that make up this spell into damage. They made this top hat no PvP. The logic behind this, I think, honestly, if you just look at other balance spells, it's like very, very obvious. This was a 5-pip spell doing 675 damage. Why? Because it has 2 school pips worth of valuation instead of 1 like other lore spells. But 675 damage is crazy when you compare it to other lore spells at 5 pips that do over 100 less. Even though, yes, they have a utility added on, it's still a little bit crazy how much damage they were getting for Scales. So now we have an interesting case where only the bottom path of Scales is allowed, and I'm sure a lot of people have questions on what this does because it's been a while since we've seen this. This version of the spell has gone through quite a few changes now, but basically it has the ability to use balance as the echo mechanic. So what this card is saying is it'll do 3 separate hits at 200 damage each for the cost of 1 pip, 1 ice school pip, and 1 life school pip. So that part is still the same, but the utility is pretty crazy. Let's say after that life, ice, and balance hit, the opponent still has a shield left on them. Right? We're talking about like maybe they elemental shielded and they still have a storm and fire shield left, right? Because those shields wouldn't be broken by Scales. After the hit, if there are shields left, what Scales will do is it'll echo that shield and give the balance a minus 65% universal shield. Now, a minus 65 universal shield is as good as a chromatic shield that ice gets for clearing weaknesses. It is basically as good as the shield school's most powerful shields, simply if you use Scales and the opponent has shields left over. Extremely powerful shield, and it's universal. That's kind of nuts. It means that if you are going to be the type of person to use shields in your strategy, right? Like, let's say that you were a Myth using Jhin or an Ice using Lord of Winter. Before, your only real concern for shielding too much was that the balance would hit with Nova and get pips for shielding. That's another utility that they have. But now, let's say someone carries this many Scales and you even elemental shield once. They can literally spam this and endlessly get 65 shields. Shielding against a balance, if there will be shields remaining after Scales, is really bad. That might just mean you might only want to tower against a balance. And by the way, that is not even the only thing it'll do. It has the ability to do an extra utility for still doing 600 damage, by the way. Spell can also echo heals. And basically what that means is, let's say that, I don't know, a life rebirths or something, or they goat monk, or maybe even a fire king arts, because that'll turn shields into a heal on them. By using this, if they have a heal on themselves, you'll get a 580 health heal over 5 rounds. Now, right now, I'm running the Wastelander setup with also, like, you know, boots that don't give a shield pin. And right now, the only source of shield pins are on hats and boots. But if you were to be able to run shield pins, you could actually boost the healing that you get from this 580 heal on a balance. Right, balance mending pins still exist. So we might actually see a balance being able to actually use this to recover as well. This is something that a lot of people noted when they were initially speculating on making Scales bottom path only because it was doing so much damage. People were only packing the top path of the spell because against other balances, you would always be at a disadvantage using the bottom path. But now the ground is still even for balance versus balance, and this spell still doing well above what other 5-pip balance spells can do. Keep in mind that the triple hit aspect of this makes it way, way better already. You know, don't even look at the damage. It's already a utility in itself. But now, against every shield school, against every heal school, and keep in mind, every school at least has a shield or heal identity, this spell is better. I think the big silver lining is, if you're going against a balance, do not triple shield. Try to avoid healing altogether, and then maybe they have to do more than just Scales you to win, which is all they have to do with the top path. I don't think balance itself has enough damage to just win out a game against even a fire by just spamming Scales. By the time they do all that with the lower damage of this lower path spell, a fire might be able to set up a kill condition. I think it is gonna make that little bit of difference. I'll say this though, playing against a balance is full of extra traps now because of this little echo utility. It could make the matchup harder, especially if you're not prepared for all this echoing. So overall, some pretty big spell changes with Scales and Elf. If you were the type of person to be mad that you would lose your Storm Nullity Dragon, it looks like they thought about that. And the Scion glitch that has been plaguing plaguing PvPers and PvEers alike has hopefully finally been addressed. According to the patch notes, they have been. There are other bug fixes that I'll link in the description if y'all want to check it out. But yes, this is quite a bit. I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts on how they handled the Storm Elf ban, how they handled scales, what your thoughts are about the Scions, especially how usable they are now that we can finally upgrade them. Let me know all y'all thoughts and comments. Drop a like if you enjoyed. Leave a sub if you're new. And as always, if somebody hasn't told you you're awesome today, they doing something wrong. Stay awesome. See y'all soon. And yeah.